Well, I think over the course of these last 10 weeks or so that where some of you as regulars have been joining us by way of live streaming of our masses here, you get a flavor of our community. Some of our seminarians have said that when they've gone out, people are recognizing, well, Eric, we've seen you on TV, on Mass, and making comments about Locke's hair, changing hairstyles. And I think that what you see is really who we are. It's a beautiful little community that is a microcosm of what our seminary community is like when it's with the full complement. And I've got to say that from my own perspective, one of the most special blessings that has happened to us as a community has been the inclusion and infusion of some of Vietnam culture, by way of our 3 Vietnamese seminarians. It always provides a beautiful opportunity for fraternity, especially when we're gathering together for supper. And so last night, one of the things we were starting to talk about were like American idioms, that for us may be common, but obviously for our brother Locke would have seemed very strange. Idioms like, can you let things roll off your back like water off the back of a duck? Or a stitch in time says 9. And I suspect the Lord was getting me ready for meditation this morning as I prayed over the gospel passage. And I was thinking about that idiom that we sometimes use, missing the forest for the trees. Missing the reality of what is there right in our midst. And clearly that is what Jesus was concerned about in his prayer. You can hear the depth of his prayer to the Father. I'm praying for these guys, Father. And I'm praying for those that are going to come to know us through them. And he keeps on repeating the prayer for the oneness because he's already aware that they're not one, even around that table. They're missing the forest for the trees. They're missing the reality of who he is. He knows what's going to happen. He knows he's going to be betrayed by one. He's going to be denied by another. And most of the others are going to scatter and leave him alone. He's aware of it. I was thinking about something which happened on my last pilgrimage to the Holy Land. We had 43 people that were on our pilgrimage, and we had an appointment to have a very, very early Mass at one of the most sacred places in Jerusalem, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. We had to be there at 5:30 in the morning for Mass. And it just happened that day that then the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Paul Ryan, flew in for an important meeting, but he, as a good Catholic, he wanted to be there for Mass, and he joined us for Mass. And there we were, celebrating Mass in the most sacred of all places. And right at the time of communion, the custodian, one of the custodians of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, came and said, "Stop! You got to stop right now and end this Mass because we got to make room for the next person." And everybody was shocked at that moment of the Mass, let alone any time in the Mass. But at that moment, right before communion, they say, "Stop! You've got to stop and leave." It's like missing the forest for the trees. And I was thinking, we should be equally as shocked, by the things that sometimes come out of our mouths, the way in which we become disrespectful of each other. Take a look at what we heard in the first reading today from the Acts of the Apostles. Here you have, 2 groups of people who supposedly are based on faith. The scribes and the Sadducees in the Sanhedrin, and Luke is not mincing any words there. He said they're getting into a real fight, over some of the basic things that were held by the Pharisees and preached by Paul, but not held by the Sadducees. And how sadly, when we take a look at the history of Christianity, how many times there has been great division in the church. No wonder Jesus was praying as he was at the Last Supper. Well, it seems to me, my sisters and brothers, that before we can start to point fingers at where we see division caused by other people, it is really important that we take a look deep within our own hearts, because we all have the capacity to cause division, yes, in our families for sure. And sometimes that we push division in the church, or that we feed division in the world in which we live. And it seems to me now that we're just days away from celebrating the great feast of Pentecost. One of the things that we realize is when the Holy Spirit comes to us again, as he did on that first Pentecost, if we're serious about receiving him, then we got to know and be prepared for the fact he's going to alter the course of our lives. He's going to change our human mindset so that what we have most important of all to remember is not to lose the forest for the trees, to recognize that Jesus, the Father, and the Spirit are with us. And they're coming with one purpose: to get us ready for the kingdom. A journey that must begin, continue with, and end with our ability to be changed by the power of God's grace. And one of the ways in which that grace needs to take root is in the ways in which we work to be one, not only with the Father and the Spirit, but how we work to become more one with each other.